do you really think Stephen A. was going to swing at LeBron James?
Nah, wouldn't happen.
No,
He would have lost.
Would have liked to see it.
No.
Yeah, I would. Yes, because is LeBron going to put his hands on Stephen A?
No.
He saw him. I'm going to say something to you. I hated to see it. I was embarrassed, really, for my profession. But Stephen A., felt strongly about it. And then as he said, hey, I was there, and athletes will say, if you're going to say something, show up. And he did.
He did. I'm gonna lie.
I just didn't want to see if he was going to swing at LeBron.
Yeah.
Dan Patrick goes off on Stephen A. Smith. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
So what's your reaction to the beef between LeBron and Stephen A. Smith?
Well, I'm going to guess there's one word that triggered LeBron, and that's where you critique him as a father.
Yeah.
Okay?
Pleading.
You critique him as a father, and that probably hit home. Okay, first of all, Stephen A. goes on the show, and this is when his son got into the game early against the Sixers, and he's matched up with Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey, he burns everybody. He's a tremendous player. And then here's LeBron saying, or Stephen A. going, LeBron, promise me. Like he made it seem like this is, that he should be reported to the services, as a bad parent. He didn't send him to Afghanistan for the war. He just, JJ put him in the game. That I would blame JJ, not LeBron. And I just thought that it was Stephen A. Being overly dramatic. And then if you critique as a father, then we got a little bit of an issue here. Now,
as far as Stephen A. Smith maybe going overboard, I get it. But my stance has been Stephen A. wasn't trying to disrespect LeBron as a father. Of course, LeBron, he had to make a moment. LeBron hasn't been feeling Stephen A. Smith for a while now. I don't think he likes him. And it's evident that Stephen A. Smith doesn't like LeBron. He said it plenty of times during his quote-unquote Taylor Swift run. But at the end of the day, man, Stephen A. wasn't trying to disrespect LeBron. But, being dramatic, trying to clip farm, trying to go viral. Yeah, he said as a father, I wouldn't do this, X, Y, and Z. And if LeBron wants to take it that way, cool. But I just think that he was looking for a way to crash out on Stephen A. Smith. Perfect opportunity. Now that you mentioned Bronny, now all the years of you kind of throwing shots at me, now I got a real reason to crash out, and I can crash out like you that way in front of the public, going viral and being able to change the narrative. So at the end of the day, Stephen A. Smith should have stood on business when he seen LeBron. Don't try to be surprised. Know what you said, address it. And if he doesn't want to talk to you on the side, have a moment in front of the public. But Stephen A. Smith just signed that contract, so he didn't want to crash out. But I think ESPN would have loved it. You're going against the biggest NBA player ever as far as notoriety and fame. You see how they spun it with ESPN First Take and then other platforms. So Stephen A. Smith, he dropped the ball because he didn't keep that same energy. But I think LeBron James overreacted and was looking for a reason to crash out on Stephen A. Smith.
Did it evolve or devolve into something silly? Like, do you really think Stephen A. was going to swing at LeBron James?
Nah, wouldn't happen.
No.
He would have
liked to see it.
No.
Yeah, I would. Yes, because is LeBron going to put his hands on Stephen A?
No.
He saw him. I'm going to say something to you, and it's basically, and Stephen A. has come out and he's basically said, hey, LeBron, Michael's the GOAT, not you. Like, why say that?
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing it in an angry way. Like, you clearly don't like LeBron. There is history there. And LeBron probably thought, enough of this shit. You can critique me as a basketball player, but I gave my son an opportunity. Yes. Is there nepotism? Yes. Would you do the same thing?
Or yours. Yes.
Would you do, if my son wanted to get into the business, I would be helping him get into the business. And I don't have any problem with, LeBron has been, by all accounts, pretty damn good parent and husband.
Yeah, as far as the nepotism thing, I think that's starting to fade away. People understand, like, look, LeBron has all the power in the media, has all the power in the NBA. So, of course, if he can get both of his sons in the NBA, one down, one to go, of course, go for it. It makes my job as a content creator easier if we got the sons of LeBron James in the NBA. So, hey, more power to LeBron if he wants to continue this. But But at the same time, just for this whole media narrative as Stephen A. Smith, the bad guy, I think that's what LeBron James wanted to do. And the Pat McAfee show, that was the nail in the coffin for Stephen A. Smith as far as, his credibility, people bashing him. A lot of people that rock with Stephen A. Smith, they're kind of siding with LeBron James right now. And then eventually Stephen A. Smith, he hasn't been saying anything about LeBron, but the media's been covering it off and on. So you want Stephen A. Smith not to mention LeBron and just this whole back and forth, but the media is still talking about it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen A. Smith addresses it again. Get the beef going again. Who cares? LeBron don't care. Why should you care? If Bronny James scores 3 points in a game, talk about it. It doesn't matter at this point. So if Stephen A. Smith really wants to do his job, start critiquing Bronny. He's going to start getting more minutes next season. So this may be an opportunity to where, let's start talking about Bronny. Yeah, he was the 55th pick, but still, he's an NBA player. If he doesn't play good, talk about him. A lot of people in the media, they refuse to talk about Bronny James. They know if they do, they could be canceled by LeBron James and Clutch Sports.
So Stephen A. used the platform to make it about Stephen A. And hey, I can call out LeBron. And I hated to see it. I was embarrassed, really, for my profession. But Stephen A., felt strongly about it. And then as he said, hey, I was there, and athletes will say, if you're going to say something, show up. And he did.
He did. I'm gonna lie.
I just didn't want to see if he was going to swing at LeBron. That would have ended.
We already know Stephen A. Smith wasn't going to swing. Now, the way that Stephen A. Smith is handling this situation after the fact, now he's starting to show his emotions, looking real emotional out there. First, he was going blow for blow with LeBron. He said something, LeBron said something. Then the Pat McAfee show, I think that just took Stephen A. Smith's ego and emotions to the roof. So if you're Stephen A. Smith at that time, the way that you handled it after the fact, yeah, he took an L on that standpoint. But his initial point with LeBron as a father, even though he was dramatic, trying to clip farm, going overboard, I think everybody knew that he wasn't disrespecting LeBron. But the way that people talked about LeVar Ball during his, opening run in 2017, talking about his kids are better than Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, they questioned LeVar, like, why are you putting on this pressure on Lonzo? Why are you doing this and that? So people are able to talk about LeVar Ball as a parent, but as Stephen A. Smith says, as a parent, as a father, he looks like the bad guy. So keep that same energy. Does everybody owe LeVar Ball an apology? And other fathers that may have talked about their sons being the greatest ever, now they're starting to look a certain way. So no one can talk about LeBron James, quote unquote, as a father, but we can bash LeVar Ball. So I just like the hypocrisy going on in the media, and I'm going to expose it.
Quickly. That would have been quick. Yeah. I got to see Mike Tyson fight in person a few times. It might have been one of those where you go, oh boy. It's one punch, and that's it. So,
come on, Gil, don't let him talk about your boss.
So, have you guys had any of that happen to you where somebody challenges you that way?
Me personally, no. Yeah. Isaiah Stewart.
Oh, no,
Good
Isaiah
job,
Stewart.
Steve. Bring it up. Isaiah Stewart did that to me, but the problem is he didn't read what I wrote correctly. Like he didn't read the words exactly how they were written. I think at some point he pretended that I said something I didn't. So I wrote that, I don't know if you got the NBA memo. The memo is, we wait till our teammates get behind us, and then we pretend to fight so we don't get fined. It's like WWE.
Yeah.
He read that you waited till your teammates got there. So basically, he thought I called him soft. Yeah. And I thought he was faking. So I told him to fake. He thought I said he was faking. So.
But not a member of the media.
No. So he ran up on me.
Yeah, Isaiah Stewart kind of, veering off and talking about him for a little bit. Don't mess with Isaiah Stewart. Yeah, everybody said they wants to fight and they may let their teammates get involved, get to the front of the line. But I think if Isaiah Stewart really wanted to make a message and send a message, yeah, he'll crash out. But no one really wants to fight. But as far as Stephen A. Smith, wasn't going to happen. Stephen A. Smith wasn't going to swing on LeBron. He just said that because his ego was being punctured. A lot of people were talking about Stephen A. Smith being soft, being shook, being emotional after the fact. after that whole confrontation when he was on the NBA Countdown show, yeah, emotionally, he was looking destroyed. That's the most I seen Stephen A. Smith not engaged in a conversation, looking down and sad, down and out. So again, no one was going to hit each other in that moment. LeBron wanted to send a message, make sure he had his cameraman right there, make sure you get the right angle, because everybody's going to be recording that moment. But unless you have that perfect angle with LeBron looking at the camera and walking off on Stephen A. Smith, it was a great opportunity for LeBron James to shift the narrative and make Stephen A. Smith look like the bad guy.
But
So
I
you were
remember
the media.
I was the media.
And
He was LeBron James.
He was LeBron.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
And unlike Stephen A. Smith, swinging was not on my mind.
Oh, yeah,
Now, I
learning
can tell you that for sure. I was trying to stop myself from running, but there's the weight room behind me, and you don't want that gorilla up in there.
I just I don't know why LeBron is so polarizing to people. I have great admiration for what I think it's the greatest basketball career if you look at the totality of it. Mm-hmm. He's never going to be Mike. Never. People won't allow it.
Yeah.
But LeBron, you're the all-time leading scorer. You're going to be in top 10 in steals and assists. Half your career you played in the NBA Finals. He dragged that Cavalier team that's one of the worst teams that's ever gone to the finals. He bounced around to win championships. I get that. Mike, never did. He went to the Wizards so he could be an owner. But it's just interesting how we hold on to that memory of Michael Jordan like it's dear life. And LeBron can never, ever. LeBron could win 7 titles. He would never be viewed as better than Michael Jordan.
By Michael Jordan being undefeated in the NBA Finals, 6-0. Even if LeBron goes on a championship run, maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, wins 2 or 3 championships, he can end his career with 7 ships. It won't really mean the same. But in all fairness, LeBron James, he can be the second greatest ever. He may even be the greatest ever. But a lot of people will never say he's fully better than Jordan, even if he had a better career than Jordan. A lot of people say I'm hating on LeBron. Why are you glazing Stephen A. Smith? I'm just keeping it real. I take everything by case basis. Just by Stephen A. Smith saying as a father, he was just saying that for clickbait. But he didn't really mean to disrespect LeBron as a father. But at the same time, shout out to LeBron. Had a great career. Still having a great career at the age of 40. So people could say I'm a LeBron James hater. But again, I take everything case by case. And in this situation, Stephen A. Smith was not disrespecting LeBron James as a father. And LeBron James strategically crashed out on Stephen A. Smith to change the narrative.